Welcome to the Zoom webinar for our Patreon exclusive on April the 1st, April Fool's Day. And we're going to talk about the Cazimi of Jupiter and how you can harness it. And I'm going to pause the recording while I let people into our Zoom room. And wow, I need to change my backdrop. We have a nice sized class today. We have like 35 people enrolled, I think, and we have 19 participants here today because there is a replay. This is a Patreon exclusive class just for you guys. It's a pop-up class on April the 1st, 2023. And the reason I was excited to do this is that Jupiter Cazimi is coming, and that's going to be Jupiter going into the heart of the sun. It's going to be something we only get once every 12 years in the sign of Aries, which is making it special in that way. And plus, it's every year. Every day, one day a year, there is a Jupiter in the heart of the sun moment. But this is, again, as I said, the Aries placement. And there's some specific features of this one that I quite like and how we might be able to use it in our own lives to purposefully enhance luck and prosperity and opportunity rather than just sort of let it land or not land. It's like to heighten our awareness, basically. And I'm going to see if we can make some things happen for our lives using it proactively. In the ancient world, they always did something proactive on a Cazimi. Especially, and I'll share how. So I'm going to share a slideshow today, and this is going to probably be less than a half an hour. It's not long. It's just you'll be able to keep it. You'll have the slides. You'll be able to resource it as a part of something you can use in the future to remind yourself of how this stuff works. Alrighty. And let me make it big sized. Once I'm in the slideshow, sometimes I can't see what you guys are doing because I'm minimizing you so I can see my own slides. So don't forget, so I'll come back to you after, but if you have a question during the slideshow, you can go into the chat box, and we'll have to probably do the chat later. And you can also go in the chat box, or you can just come on the mic, especially when I say anybody have a question, because I'll every now and then go, do you have a question? Do you have a question? Or it just makes sense to you on the microphone. You don't have to go into your camera mode if you're shy, right? So you have options around that. Just put your voice in, and then we'll go later on to like a full-blown discussion between all of us, amongst all of us. So Kimberly's now going to be taking charge of letting people in as needed, because I'm going to go big slideshow mode. And I have to move you out of the way, and we're starting out. Here we go. Jupiter Cazimi, April 11th and 12th, 2023. And it's really kind of you'll see why I put both the 11th and the 12th into the slideshow as dates. Once we get through the nitty gritty of it, you'll understand my reasoning on that. Let me just escape out again. I just need to do something else. I need to minimize you guys. There we go. And we'll go back into big picture mode. All right, let's get rolling. The luckiest day of the year, or days of the year, depends on your time zone, and how to use it. So let's first of all understand the word Cazimi and also Jupiter in a Cazimi so that we're all on the same understanding slash playing field, basically. So every planet has a cycle relative to the sun. So every once a year, the planet will move into alignment with the sun called a conjunction. And from our perspective on Earth, in the sky, they look like they're on top of each other. Now, to be clear, two planets can always come into contact. Sometimes Jupiter is sitting with Venus in the sky, right? Conjunct. But the Cazimi is a word we reserve for the sun. Okay. So when a planet is beside the sun, all right, that's more than a conjunction. Right? Just like Jupiter and Venus are beside each other in the sky. That's a conjunction. No, this is the Cazimi because you need a sun for something to be Cazimi, right? That's a word exclusively for the sun. It's like the idea of super exaltation and purification of the planet in a Cazimi. So there are three phases to a Cazimi in a sense that it's a progression, and it's not really, there's only a Cazimi, that's the singular phase, but there's a steps of the planet will take as it approaches the sun and leaves the sun that are also its own unique phases. All right. Phase one, under the beams of the sun. That's when a planet is in general within 15 degrees of the sun. And so most modern astrologers simply talk about a planet being invisible. So a planet will be invisible when it's 15 degrees in front, before the sun, like approaching the sun from our vantage on Earth, and 15 degrees after the sun. And so that's a range in which we normally can't see a planet. So it's invisible. And in the ancient world, that would be just said under the beams, you know? And then as the planet gets closer to the sun, in the ancient world, they called it combust, like combustion, like burning up. And that's when the planet is now closer to the sun. It's 8.5 degrees from the sun, approaching or leaving the sun. That is called combust, and it's more intensely malefic and difficult than under the beams, which precedes it. So in essence, you could really say a planet is under the beams from 15 to 8.5 degrees from the sun, and 8.5 to the Cazimi mark, which we'll talk about, it's combust. So there are degrees of planetary difficulty. But basically the main difficulty a planet is having is it's invisible. So as Jupiter is going through the sky right now, the entire month of April, he's invisible. In fact, March the 22nd to the end of April, we cannot see Jupiter. So that is a difficult Jupiter for the world. It means Jupiter can't bring prosperity. Jupiter can't bring goodness, wisdom. Jupiter can't help world leaders because Jupiter represents kings and leaders. This is not a good time for the stock markets either, because Jupiter can often influence the markets in terms of abundance or lack of abundance. So things that Jupiter normally could take charge of, justice as well. He's kind of crapped out, guys. You know, right now he's not doing much. Now there's a theory that invisible Jupiter is your inner guide, your inner guru, your sage-like inner wisdom. It's time to go inward with your Jupiterian qualities. And, you know, that's kind of a modern spin. May be true. You might want to see if that's true for you. Is this a time for inner enlightenment, so to speak, or inner wealth or inner journeys that Jupiter would condone? Probably you could think of it that way. Okay, so now we're talking the specialness of the Cazimi, which is exact on the 11th, but I'll give you the dates in a minute. You'll see what I mean. So phase 3, the planet is Cazimi. Now, in the ancient tradition of Guido Bonatti, for example, it has to be within 17 minutes to be called the magical, superpowered purification, any planet on steroids degree. Don't forget, Venus can go to the Cazimi, Mercury can be Cazimi the sun, Saturn could be, like every planet can have a turn, right? We're talking to Jupiter today. So the planet within 17 minutes is less than a degree, right? A degree is 60 minutes. So it's less than a degree away from the sun. It's 17. And that's the ancient qualification for Cazimi, okay? Modern astrologers will give it up to 60 degrees. So it's debatable. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that happen with these debates. So it's all about trying it on for size for yourself. So I'm leaning into the 17-minute ancient wisdom because I want to use this magical event and harness it. So I'm going to suggest we all go with that because, you know, why be fast and loose with a once every 12-year event? Why not like trust the universe? You know, that this is exactly what it's supposed to be, and we follow the rules of the ancient world, and we do the thing that they said. Okay, that was weird. My slideshow just jammed up. There we go. So the affliction phase, again, I mentioned it already. The planet is really in really rough shape, 15 degrees or 8.5 degrees, and even closer to the sun. And you might think of it like it's burning, right? It's burning up, it's being combusted. And a planet's dying, basically. He's approaching the sun to die and then be born again on the other side of the sun. And that represents planets moving from being morning stars and evening stars, visible in the early hours just before the sun rises, or being visible in the evening after the sun sets. And that's the difference between, you know, morning and evening, coming into the sun, leaving on the other side. Okay, so that's a little bit TMI probably for what we're doing today. There's an exception to a rule here. It always is an exception to a rule, right? Always, always, always. A planet is never really harmed when it comes into the heart of the sun on its journey in, as it's under the beams and then combust. It's never really harmed if it's in its own kingdom. They call that being in its chariot, or even in a sign of his exaltation. So for Jupiter, those places where he's all powerful and the sun can't really hurt him would be in his home sign of Pisces, in his home sign of Sagittarius, and in his exaltation place of Cancer. And so, you know, last year's Cazimi in the spring was Jupiter coming through his own sign in Pisces and not getting burned up at all. And the last time Jupiter was in the heart of the sun in Aries was back in 2009, I believe. I think I wrote it in the slideshow, but it's roughly 12 years ago. So yeah, 2009. So reminding you that Jupiter is abundance, faith, hope, wisdom, truth, prosperity, luck, the good king, the guru, the fairy godfather, Santa Claus. I mean, just a good guy. And so I love that little picture from a mural somewhere I grabbed online of what looks like a guy in a tutu, but fairy godfather energy. Hard to find fairy godfather. For some reason, everyone thinks the fairy gods are all mothers. That's like a poor guy's patriarchal diss, you know? So fairy godfather. Okay, so yeah, it was 2009, April, around 5 degrees of Aries. I'm just using my memory. That's the last time we saw Cazimi in Aries with Jupiter. Okay, so Cazimi in general is a super dignity. And I grabbed this with Getty Images not giving me permission, but I love the image of the old king on his throne and all the people petitioning him, because that's what the metaphor is. The sun is the king of the solar system, king soul, the purveyor of divine intelligence, okay, the operating system for the universe of our world. And so when planets come to the sun, they get advisement, they get purified by the sun, and they get a chance to consult with the king. So in that sense, they're getting some kind of downloads or communion, as well as that the sun is shining through the planet as well. They're merging as one. So they call it the lap of the king, the court of the king, the throne of the king, are various metaphors and ways of saying it in the ancient astrology tradition. As I said, some astrologers say 60 minutes, the ancients say within 17 minutes. And for our purposes of magical and harnessing, we're going to go with the 17 minutes to be safe, right? Why waste the opportunity otherwise? All right, so if you were born with a Cazimi planet in your natal chart, then especially you have especially powerful powers on that planet, right? That planet will operate from a place of genius or extreme talent or great luck or superpowered success. And it will do that in your chart by the nature of the planet itself. You know, Venus, love, art, beauty, money, friendship, Jupiter, everything, prosperity, wealth, abundance, wisdom, truth, Mercury, you know, messages, communication, writing, etc. When you know your planetary meanings, you can begin to parse how a Cazimi planet in your natal sky could operate. Cazimi, yeah. And then also, of course, the sign in which it occurs, and also the house, right? There is a thing about Cazimis when the sun is out of dignity. For example, the sun is not in great dignity, right? It's in a sign of its weakness. When it's in the sign, I don't know if this is true, but this is the lore, right? I mean, I understand that why it's that way, but sometimes you think about this, you know, people born with their sun in Aquarius or their sun in Libra. These are two places of lack of dignity. Libra is a place where the sun is fallen, and Aquarius is where the sun is exiled. So if the sun is in those signs and planets are going into Cazimi with the sun is not in great shape. So you could argue that it's a place of the lesser greatness of a Cazimi. The ancient world, they would probably refrain from doing magic on those Cazimis because of the sun's weakness in those signs. So to be pondered. And of course, then the meaning of the house, 12 houses, 12 places of meaning in your chart. The whole sky is not all about us. So, you know, it could be the house of our children, there's a Cazimi, the house of our marriage, the house of our career, the house of our health, the house of our work, the house of our pets, you know. So knowing the meaning of the house, the sign, and the planet for your natal Cazimi, or for the Cazimis every year, they're happening all the time, right? Planets are bumping into the sun every day. Well, every day, Mercury more frequently, and Venus, and then Jupiter every once a year. But it's good to note that understanding planet meanings, sign meanings, house meanings help you decode the sky. So Oprah Winfrey is born with Venus in the heart of the sun in Aquarius, in her third house of media and magazines. And she is a perfect example of becoming like the queen or the empress, right? The sun is the divine throne-like energy shining through her Venus, beauty, love, art, communication, of kindness, Super Soul Sunday, how she exalted her energetic around it. Aquarius, the sign of the people, the populace, groups of belonging, humanitarian endeavors. And then, of course, the energy of the house itself, as I said, journalism belongs to the third house. Magazines and periodicals belong there. Media outlets and stuff like that belong there. She had a talk show for quite a long time on TV before everything else. Well, small TV, and then she got big and big and big. And then she had a magazine, and then she had everything, She's an incredibly powerful being. So there's one of the best examples of what can happen. And this is how she pulled it off. Now, Donna Summer is an example of someone with the Jupiter Cazimi. Jupiter is in the heart of the sun when she was born in the sign of Capricorn in her fifth house. I meant to write fifth house, in the fifth house of the artist, songwriter, performer, the arts, etc. Also, the fifth house is a fame house, one of two. She's also got Mercury in that house. Right. So she writes her songs and she sings her songs and she belts them out in the world. And she's won all these awards, right? And she's actually won some things that no one has ever done before, like a first ever. But she won 5 Grammys, 6 American Music Awards, one platinum double album, the only artist, male or female, to accomplish this, 11 gold albums, 4 hit singles, #1, and more. I just ran out of space to keep writing them. So she wasn't just a singer, she wasn't just a songwriter, she wasn't just a beautiful artist. She was someone with Jupiter, wealth, opportunity, luck, abundance, prosperity, goodness, right? In a house of art and performing in the heart of the sun. So there's a perfect example of the exceptional quality that Jupiter was able to achieve. And I want to point this out. Jupiter in Capricorn is in a debilitated sign for him. He doesn't like being there, right? It's a sign of his fall. But the sun, being in the heart of the sun, was like the exception to that potential weakness that he would have. And that's why I wanted to pick her as an example, because it's like even Jupiter in a place of his fall was redeemed as he was in the heart of the sun in her chart when she was born. Right. So that's exactly the power of this fusion of the sun with a planet. Even a negative planet like Mars or Saturn or Malefics are infused with the nobility, the purification, and the strength of the divine intelligence of the universe, according to the cosmology of the ancients. So as I said already, the planet is radiating through, the sun is radiating through the planet during the 17 minutes of the Cazimi, or the 60 seconds of the minutes of 60 minutes or 1 degree of the Cazimi, all right? And minutes doesn't mean minutes like, get your watch in front of you. This is minutes in terms of arcs of degrees in a 360-degree circle. So you'll see what I mean when I get further on. Remember that a key meaning for Jupiter is luck and wealth and wisdom and truth, because we're going to use it together. We're all going to use it. We're going to report our results to each other. So the last time this Jupiter was in the heart of the sun in Aries was April 5th, 2011. So there's my brain going offline about 12 years ago. Yes, April 5th, 2011 at 5 degrees of Aries. So imagine if you guys know your charts really well, right? If you had any planets at 5 Aries, back in 2011, you really would have felt it like, woo, especially if your planet was at 5 Aries, not just close to, but at 5 Aries. Then my moon at 8 Aries and my Mercury at 2 Aries. So I could go back and ponder what kind of moon and Mercury things happened for me in my third house back in 2011, April. And I want to say one more thing about this. This is like a reset of the next, like in other words, it'll take 12 years so this time around, the Cazimi is at 21 degrees and 45 minutes of Aries, all right? It's going to happen on April the 11th. I'm going to get to more time in a minute, detail. But if you think of it this way, there's something being initiated by a lucky god, Jupiter, with the sun in this chunk of your real estate, your house and sign point, whole sign houses of Aries. I remember what happened to me in 2011, because it's not just the lucky day is a Cazimi day, but the vibe is, hey, what did he incite here? during that time that may be a narrative that unfolds even over 12 years, right? Like this is a seedy plants, right? So in 2011, in the fall of that year, I started my blog called The Awakened Dreamer. And it's because the Cazimi is in my third house of publications and online world. I didn't even know what a blog was. And in fact, that began my online career, because in the same year of the Cazimi, I started a job. Within 12 months of the Cazimi, I started a job at a magazine called Elephant Journal. I was an editor and then went to another magazine. Everything that happened when I look back at 2011 was the beginning of my life online as a professional, as well as a blogger and a writer online. So it's like now I'm going to have this again, 21 degrees and 45 minutes of the same house. Last time it was pretty close to Mercury, and that could account for the writing, editing and stuff. This time it's close to my Athena, the goddess of astrology, at 19 degrees, and my asteroid Atlantis at 20 degrees. So who knows, Atlantean themes, astrology themes, because Athena is books, knowledge, wisdom. I mean, published books because of it. So you see, you can start to look at the cycles. So you're going to go back in your chart. You want to look at the Aries area, the house that it is, where any planets close to it. What does it all mean for you? This is a reset. It's going to start something in motion that's going to take another 12 years to fulfill itself. So it's not just the day. The day is good for harnessing magic. We're going to do that. But it's looking at like from the big picture view of what it means for your life. There's a Sabian symbol at 21 degrees of Aries. And the reason you round it up is all Sabian symbols are rounded up. So the symbol for 22 Aries is the gate to the garden of desire. Oh, it's so exotic, you know, the gate to the garden of desire. I have my book by, what's her name again? Diana Roche, Sabian symbols, 21 Zen koan sort of sayings. 360 Zen sayings, a degree for every degree of the zodiac, channeled by a woman named Elsie Wheeler. But the book I have by Diana Roche called A Screen of Prophecy says this about it. She says, the key word is prospect. And she says the theme is exercising your options. Now, everyone interprets these almost like it's crazy. You know, there's so many different ways to interpret, but I like her book. I've had it for years. So she says, think about it this way, because this is coming for you and me. The symbol speaks to a complete openness to life, a childlike belief the world was created for personal enjoyment. The image of the gate to the garden of desire suggests that whatever is desired can be easily obtained with little effort. However, there's nothing in this image to indicate any pressure or incentive to take action. Instead, there's an almost lyrical quality that this image suggests an individual may be completely satisfied knowing that whatever she wants or needs is within her reach and waiting to be used at her leisure, but making no effort to obtain it. At its highest, this symbol represents the heightened alertness to opportunity and a natural instinct for knowing the right time to make a move or exercise an option. She puts the key stepping stone words are opportunity, possibility, opening, alertness, enjoyment, and options. And she talks about don't let opportunities slip through your fingers, because, you know, they can be withdrawn. So that's like kind of like a threshold, right? Gate to the garden of desire. Reminds me of that show Lucifer that was on NBC for a while, and then I think Amazon Prime or somebody picked it up. And it's like Lucifer always looks at the person and hypnotizes them with his eyes, and he says, "What do you tell me? What do you truly desire?" So I'm going to ask us to think about that, because if you're going to use this Cazimi, do you really desire a Maserati or something, or do you desire something else? Like, you know, you could desire an object, but what's the object going to give you? Happiness? Then desire happiness. Don't desire the car. Desire the thing that the car represents. That's just my humble guidance for you. You can desire happiness and a Maserati, but think about what it is you desire at a deeper emotional level, because then the universe can bring you that feeling in many different ways. So here's the sun within a degree of Jupiter. And this is what it looks like within a degree. Remember how we talked about 17 minutes or 1 degree away? This is the modern version. 20 The sun's at 20 degrees and 25 minutes, and Jupiter is at 21:25. That's a degree, 60 minutes. So this is the time frame for this potential potent energy in the modern tradition. Okay, will be April the 10th at 6:45 a.m. Pacific Daily Time. Adjust for your time zone. The sun will be in a degree of the sun on either side until April the 12th, 2 days later, at 11:21 p.m. This means there's a 2.5 day window for luck in the modern tradition. But if we use the traditional 17 minutes, then the luck window is narrowed down to April the 11th at 5:40 a.m. PDT, Pacific Daily Time, to April 12th, 2:21 a.m. Pacific Daily Time. Now that's a much tighter window, isn't it? Think about that. You get up in the morning on April 11th here, it's early morning in the Eastern, you guys are having your coffee and you're off to work and stuff like that. And then you get up, you spend your whole April 11th doing your thing. And then you get up, and then it's midnight basically, right? And then it's midnight because now we're at 12:21 a.m. So you really only have April 11th in the old tradition, from the dawn hours here to the midnight hours, to get this baby off the ground. So keep that in mind, because I'm going to encourage you to look for the time of April 11th, tighter window, to do some of my suggestions, not the broader window. So the exact Cazimi, like exact 21:45 is exactly at 3:02 to 3:25 p.m. Pacific Daily Time on April the 11th. If you're a stickler for magic, then I would even try to aim for that window myself. But the other broader window I gave you is fine as well. And you can see on the picture to the right that we have a little asteroid at 1955, really 20 degrees, right? I put that in there because it's pretty damn close. And the sun will have gone over the asteroid basically, and then through Jupiter. So think of it this way, the last thing that the sun talked to, because the sun is moving faster. Jupiter is not moving over the sun. Jupiter is moving slow. The sun's moving over Jupiter. The king is moving into Jupiter, basically, but we don't express it that way. We say Jupiter's going into the heart of the sun. So where Jupiter is sitting, in this picture with the asteroid next to him, and the sun has gone through that asteroid, right? Jupiter is going to be like experiencing with the solar energy something about the asteroid Arachne. Now, I've talked about this in a lot of my YouTube videos. But it's like the story of having a singular, unique gift or ability or talent that is so amazing that it could best the gods. That in a contest with Athena, the weaver goddess, this little girl, mortal girl, beat Athena basically, and was mortified and hung herself, and then was given eternal life as a spider weaving in the sky. Now, spider energy in different lores can be things Arachne, to do with storytelling or the weaving of fate and destiny. Use it as you wish, just to know that there's something about this opportunity, the gate to desire, that may ask each of us, ostensibly, to look inward at what our unique talent, gift, or skill really is. And the reason I say that, there's an expression that's called, in indigenous traditions of North America, your original medicine. Something that no one else can do just the way you do, because your fingerprint is unique, because you have a once in a, everything about you, your voice print, your fingerprint, your facial features, your iris, nobody's got the same set of goods as you do. So I feel it could also be a call individually and collectively to lean in to something that's called our original medicine for this world, who needs a lot. She needs Gaia, needs a lot of us to find our original medicine and not dither away our lives. I don't want to be on a preacher's pulpit, but when people retire and all they do is golf, I'm like, what? And I'm particularly irate about it. In the ancient world, or especially even in India today, you raised your kids, you had your job, you did your stuff, the householder, and now it's time to seek God. It's time to find your purpose, that you are here for the greater good. It's time to go into your spiritual quest so you can be a greater service.
So it doesn't matter how old we are, we can do that at any time. So I like the Arachne myth on this story. So there's my pulpit. So how do you harness the Cazimi luck? Okay. 1, look in your chart to see where the Aries placement is. It's one whole sign house. Do not use Placidus. It won't work. One whole sign house. And you want to consider the meaning of the house for your focus on Cazimi Day. Like, I know that my Aries house in my Aquarius rising chart is my siblings, my aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, short distance travel, skills-based learning and teaching, online world. I think I'll probably open the doors to my Sky Reader course on that day, the 11th, because it bakes in the opening to the carte, that you can enroll in the class. It'll bake it in to a Jupiter Cazimi in my 3rd house. I mean, it can't be bad, right? I may do other things that day. So I'll get to that in a minute. I'll explain that magical stuff in a minute. So then number 2, so 1, what's the meaning of the house where this is happening in your 12th house sky? Number 2, I want you to look to the 21st degree of Aries. Do you have any planets at that degree? Now, or near it, let's say within 3 degrees, because in the ancient world, 3 degrees is engagement. So if you have any planets in Aries, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 maybe, or 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 even, around there in Aries, then pay attention, because that planet is so close to the Cazimi that it may be in the story. Okay, it may have meaning. It may imbue it with meaning. Do you have planets? Oh, I went out of order for my slides. Do you have anything going on in your Sag or Leo zone at 21? And that's because that will be in a flow aspect, right? It's a fire to fire, and it's called a trine, and that is like a kind of double healing luck power that those planets can contribute to whatever Jupiter is doing. So you need to know a little bit about astrology. For some of you, that's easy, and some of you are just learning, but you'll have the slideshow to keep and go back on and think about it, or you really take time to dive into it. I'll send you a copy of it with the recording. Now, all the other degrees as well, like we're going to go through the signs of Pisces, Taurus, Scorpio, Virgo. Those are the 4 signs that don't count. Every other sign counts, okay? So we're going to process of elimination. Planets at 21 Pisces, 21 Taurus, 21 Scorpio, 21 Virgo. Don't pay attention to them, okay? They're in aversion. They're semi-sextiles or in conjunction away. They're pretty soft touches. You may have some kind of intuitive vibe about them, but they're probably not going to greatly influence the Cazimi by any great degree. So that's the exception to the rule. Super lucky, or Sag Leo planets at 21-ish. And then just anything at Pisces, Taurus, Scorpio, Virgo, ignore those planets. They're not in any role, any way participating. All right, so how do we do this? Like, how can we make magic from the magical sky, Because it's already magical. How can we do it? Okay, so on the Cazimi day, or the Cazimi hour, or the Cazimi minute, up to you how close you want to get to the exact time. Remember, the exact time is 3:02 to 3:25 a.m., p.m. in the afternoon Pacific Daily Time on the 11th. So you can do something like a vision board, a guided meditation, journaling, any manifestation device tool, chanting, whatever you do when you think you want to manifest something. You want to go into that process then, right? You really want to imbue yourself with the potential of this incredible Cazimi power that's happening in that part of your Aries sky. If I knew that the Cazimi was happening in my 10th house of career and reputation, I wouldn't be focused on envisioning my dream home or my super powerful best kitchen I could ever possibly have designed, because it's not happening in the house of my home. It's happening in the house of my reputation and career. So I may as well aim my target of my manifestation at the meaning of the house in which this Cazimi is occurring, right? Keep that in mind. Create a talisman. Okay, so the main thing that the ancients did during Cazimis is they did talismanic magic. And you can imbue like a piece of paper. So talismans are interesting. If you do something solid, like say you etch something into metal, or you etch something into stone, that talisman has a long lasting power. So if you're like, you have the capability to etch into metal or carve into stone, go for it. This is nothing malefic at all about this Cazimi, right? There's nothing about it that I'd warn you away from. Let's put it that way. So that's the thing when you're doing astrological magic. To some degree, you have to be careful that you don't etch into stone something without noting the malefic thing in the sky that's going to countermand your magic. But, you know, you can do a talisman. I would do a talisman at 3 o'clock to 3:30, basically in the afternoon on April 11th, because that's the peak of potency in Pacific Daily Time. You know, get a piece of paper. Now, paper talismans are fun. Get a piece of paper, a cardboard or something, and draw, you know, anything, a symbol. You could draw the symbol of Jupiter and the symbol of the sun. Go Google the symbols, right? Put them on the talisman, maybe decorate it with some flowers and some pretty images, maybe a 4-leaf clover because it means luck, maybe a picture of a bag of coins because it means money. And, or you can collage your talisman, whichever way you want. That is a talismanic object, and it imbues the moment with magic. And you can take that object and put it on your altar, or it can be a portable talisman if it's like a piece of jewelry you've etched some symbols into. And you kind of baked in this luck, basically. And the luck applies to the Aries chunk of your sky, basically. As you might imagine, right? If you're an Aries rising, sun or moon, but especially rising, I'm an Aries sun. This is really lovely. I mean, the sun is exalted in Aries. So this is an exalted sun. I didn't mention that Jupiter's coming into contact with. So it's quite lovely. And, so if you are Aries, for sure, I mean, really don't waste this opportunity to do something quite talismanic on that day. Because if you're Aries rising, it's about your health, your vitality, your body, your identity, your personhood. Aries sun, your career, your purpose, your father figures. Aries moon, your mom, your mother figures, your home, your nest, your safety, security needs, things like that. So for all Aries out there who get to listen to the replay, grab this magical talismanic day of the 11th, the window 5 something a.m. in the morning Pacific Daily to basically midnight Pacific Daily, and then adjust for your time zone, or the tighter window 3 to 3:30-ish during the day Pacific Daily Time. Those are two very lucky combinations, either one. And then finally, number 3, use the Cazimi as an electional moment, okay? Electional astrology means to bake into the moment something that you care about. So you can book that trip on that day or in that moment because you know everything good about that trip will unfold. Launch a website, oh yeah, for sure. Get a domain name on that day. Bake in that Jupiter Cazimi to a domain name, killer, yes. Make an important phone call that really matters to you. Send a critical email. You want to get an agent and you're going to send the email to the agents or to the publisher on the moment of the Cazimi. Like for me, because it's my 3rd house of writing, I probably should start a writing project that day, because that would be like baking into the inception point of my writing project, something very positive. So you want to bake it in like a clay tablet, some kind of lucky vibe on the moment you begin something on the 11th. And yeah, that's so much fun and so easy to do, right? So I'm done the slideshow. I'm going to stop the share. Coming back to you guys, and we're going to go into the question period at this and ask. I'm going to check the chat box. A couple of you guys came in late, but there will be a replay. We're now in the question period after the slideshow. So I'm going to go into looking at the chat box first, and then I can also take audio questions. And I didn't ask you if you had questions along the way, but that's because I thought it was such a short slideshow. And let me go through any questions in the chat. I'm looking now. Yeah, you guys are chatty. If you were born at night, says Aura, would that mean Jupiter is not as powerful in one's chart? No, yeah. So there's something called the sect, right? If you're born at night, Jupiter is not your beneficent sect. No, Aura, I don't think so. I mean, you can make an argument that if you're born in the morning when the sun is below the horizon or below the ascendant-descendant line in your natal chart, that you have more potency if you're born at night with Venus, and more potency with Jupiter if you're born in the day. But certainly, it's a great question, but certainly it's still Jupiter in an exalted sun. So where it's almost like saying, is it 2 scoops of ice cream on your cone or 1? You know what I mean? Or is it 3 or 2? It's still scoops of ice cream on your cone. So, or is it a double rainbow or a rainbow? So yeah, surely it would be a little more powerful for people born in the day, but it will serve everybody. But that's a fantastic astrology question. Okay, the asteroid was Arachne, Jody asked me.